David Pollack told us Carson Beck is his choice to be the starter for the Georgia Bulldogs, which got me thinking. There's a lot of quarterbacks in that room for the Dogs. You got Carson Beck, you got Brock Vandagriff, Gunnar Stockton. So the wheel started turning in my head, and I said, what are the power rankings for quarterback rooms in the SEC? So not just the starter, we're not giving our power rankings for SEC starters. I'm talking about the room, the depth of it all. Not ranking the wallpaper or the light fixtures, just to be clear. But we're going to start at 5, work our way up to number 1. Get at me in the live chat. Get at me in the comment section here because I want to hear from y'all. I promise you we will not agree on this across the board. That's what makes this fun. Arkansas, for me, comes in at number 5. You got KJ Jefferson, obviously being your starter, saying run that back turbo, give me another year. You got Jacoby Criswell, transferring from North Carolina to Arkansas. Now we'll start with KJ Jefferson. Dude's just solid. Like, from a physical standpoint, my guy lifts heavy weights. And then from a passer and production standpoint, total of 60 touchdowns the last 2 years, only 9 interceptions. And solid is really just the word that kept coming to mind for me when I tried to define this quarterback room. Got a guy like KJ Jefferson, who maybe he's not winning the Heisman Trophy, but you're going to have a chance every single time number 1 laces it up. And then Jacoby Criswell, like I said, transferring from North Carolina. Go ahead and rewind the tape a little bit, back to last summer, back to last spring even. And what were we saying about the quarterback room at North Carolina? Hey, Drake May has got tons of ability. He's probably the starter, but don't be surprised if Jacoby Criswell gives him a run for his money. And that was a battle that went back and forth. Drake May is going to be one of the top picks in the NFL draft this time next year, y'all. Like, he's one of the baddest dudes in the country. And Jacoby Criswell was a 4-star out of high school and gave Drake May all he could handle in that quarterback derby. So that leads me to believe Jacoby Criswell can spin the rock, y'all. There's not really a ton of sample size on him from an in-game standpoint, but you pair Jacoby Criswell with KJ Jefferson, that's a really solid quarterback room. Again, I don't know if it's winning in the SEC, but it's good enough to get you in at least every single ball game. Because KJ Jefferson being on the field for Arkansas a season ago, Arkansas was a drastically different team when he was on the field than when he wasn't. So we'll leave it at that. But for me, Arkansas is number 5. The word to describe them, man, just solid. Woo pig, they're solid. If you haven't yet subscribed, man, go ahead and lock it in. Would love to have you a part of this. Shout out to the podcast. We're on the podcast as well. Apple and Spotify, wherever you get them. You can find the hard count in your podcast feed. Also, follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at JD Pakel. We do teach tape here, which means I take a piece of Scotch tape and tape it outside the wall of the studio and tap it before we walk in, kind of like you see different programs. You know, like Notre Dame taps play like a champion today. LSU has the win bar. You can see what we're writing on the teach tape if you're following me on Instagram, okay? Might put that up for crowdsourcing here pretty soon as well. At number 4, I got Ole Miss. Now, some of y'all might be higher on Ole Miss, and that's fine with me, but here's my deal with the Rebels. They're a lot like a Volkswagen Jetta. And I drive a Jetta. I love a Volkswagen Jetta, man. I've been driving it since high school. And a Volkswagen Jetta is reliable. It's sturdy. I think I've had it break down on me, and breakdown's even the wrong word to use. I've had issues with it twice in my life since high school, and one of those was a flat tire because the tire's been run for forever. But I'm not winning any races with a Jetta. I'm not taking that thing to the streets of Nashville and drag racing. You know why? Because I would get dusted. And that's what I look at and see with this Ole Miss quarterback room. A lot of depth. If all 3 of these guys somehow, some way stick around, which I think is a long shot, but at the room right now, pretty deep, really solid. I don't think you're going to break down. You got Jackson Dart, you got Spencer Sanders, transfer from Oklahoma State, and Walker Howard, 4-star quarterback transferred in from LSU. All these guys you can be fine with, but are any of them going to be game breakers for you? Jackson Dart last year, 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Okay, 2-to-1 interception to touchdown ratio, touchdown-interception ratio. It's not great, right? It's not going to get you to Atlanta and get you the kind of hardware you want to win. Spencer Sanders, 67 touchdowns, 40 interceptions on his career. That's worse than a 2-to-1 ratio. And I get it. He is a special athlete. There's a lot of things with his legs that make up for what he doesn't do well with his arm. But I'm looking at this and I'm saying, where's the game breaker in this group? Maybe you bet on the potential of what Walker Howard could be. We don't have any data on him right now. He's a 4-star, like I said, out of high school, so we know he can play, but I don't see anything within this quarterback room that's going to win you some races. I don't see the it factor in this room. And that's fine. Like I said, it's deep. It's not going to break down on you. I think Ole Miss will be a good team yet again this year. I don't think Ole Miss is falling apart at the seams. But when I look at this quarterback room specifically, I don't see too many fireworks. I see a lot of good, and I see a lot of interceptions. I'm not here to dunk on Ole Miss. That's just my feel when it comes to the quarterback room. Again, you're going to be fine at Ole Miss. Very serviceable. I'm not trading in my Volkswagen Jetta anytime soon. I promise you. I love that thing. But I'm not going drag racing with it. So that's how I feel about the Ole Miss quarterback room. Now, Georgia's a tricky one. Because all three of these cats, we really have no starting quarterback data on. When I say data, we don't have any statistics we can look at and say, yes, you did this in a game after starting it and being the guy from wire to wire during the season. Like, yes, Carson Beck played in the national title game. Looked good in the national title game, to be real with you. But here's what I think about the Georgia quarterback room. It's like a really nice steakhouse. Like, for me, I went and had my bachelor party about a year and a half ago now in Austin, Texas. My brother planned the whole thing, takes me to this great steakhouse in Austin, Texas. But I'd never been there. Like, I never showed up and ordered off the menu, but I knew it was going to be good. That's kind of like the quarterback room at Georgia. We haven't seen these guys really play. I haven't seen them really spin the rock. But you look at the menu, look at what they got there. Look at what's around them, quite frankly, from a talent standpoint. 4-star quarterback in Carson Beck. 5-star quarterback in Brock Vandagriff. 4-star quarterback in Gunnar Stockton. You can find something on this menu that's going to be nice. And when we're talking about the entire room here, not just whoever ends up being the starter, you can probably win with any of these guys. You just heard David Pollack talk about it a second ago. Said Carson Beck's job to lose, but Gunnar Stockton's a dude now. Y'all, Gunnar Stockton has been, for a lot of people's money, third on the podium, behind Brock Vandagriff. There are some people saying Brock Vandagriff's going to be the guy. Heck, I think some betting outlets have Brock Vandagriff as the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy over Carson Beck in terms of odds, if you were to bet on one of those guys today, preseason. Like, this thing is wide open. All these guys can spin it. They're going to have great talent around them. And so I think that's going to make them look good. But just as a total room, it's like ordering off a nice menu at a nice steakhouse. You're going to find something you like, okay? It's going to be all right if you're Georgia. So I have them at number 3. The reason we don't have them higher, like I just said, we haven't ordered off this menu yet. Now, when all the dust settles, it could be the number 1 room in the entire country. But today, based on what we haven't seen, based off not ordering off the menu yet, I think they're the 3rd best room in the SEC. Now, at number 2, I have LSU. And LSU, to me, is just the most durable quarterback situation in the entire conference. So is it the best? I got one team ahead of them. Most durable for me. And the reason why I say most durable is you can adapt at the quarterback position for whatever the situation calls for at LSU. Hey, you know what? Pass game's not there today, y'all. They put a lid over the receiving core, and we're not getting anything deep. Jaden Daniels, y'all know he can shake and bake, Ricky Bobby. Like, he can make some things happen with his legs. Did it a lot last season. Some people will tell you that was the best thing he did for LSU last season, especially when the run game got going with the running back. You got the read option going. Like, Jaden Daniels can make it happen for you. 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So he's not turning the ball over for you, but if Jaden Daniels can't go, and we saw this happen in the SEC title game, Jaden Daniels gets dinged up, you got Garrett Nussmeier behind him. And Garrett Nussmeier, man, he's a gunslinger, the definition of a gunslinger. Now, you love that because he's going to push the ball deep to your receivers and let them go try and make some plays. Like, hey, I trust my guy. He's down there somewhere. Go get it, brother. Go make a play on the ball for me. You love that in your quarterback. If you're a receiver, at least, say, hey, this guy trusts me to go make a play. And Brian Kelly told us he joined the hard count last week and said that's one of the things we need to see from Jaden Daniels. He needs to trust his receivers more. He needs to push the ball downfield. For Garrett Nussmeier, you might say, hey, man, you might need to dial back the trust a little bit. Because the other side of that coin is you put the ball in harm's way. A 50-50 ball means your receiver has a 50% chance to catch it, but there's another 50% for your defensive back to intercept it, which is not the world you want to live in. But you hear what I'm saying. In terms of durability for this quarterback situation, if Jaden Daniels goes down, you hate that. It limits your offense in some ways, but in other ways, you feel really good about Garrett Nussmeier. And you've seen both these guys in game. Garrett Nussmeier threw for nearly 300 yards against Georgia. I don't care. It was against their JV team. 300 yards, 294 to be exact, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Like, hey, that'll play. That'll play. We can win with that. All right? So, most durable situation in the SEC. Garrett Nussmeier is going to get first-team reps this spring. Brian Kelly told us Jaden Daniels is our quarterback, but Garrett Nussmeier is going to keep growing. You got to grow by playing with the ones. So feel good if you're LSU. I think the number 2 room in the entire SEC. Now at number 1, got the Tennessee Volunteers. Joe Milton's your starter. Nico Iamaleava is waiting in the wings. Some of this is projection, but in a small sample size from Joe Milton, he lit it up. 68% completion percentage in the Orange Bowl. 3 touchdowns, was 19 for 28, 251 yards. Like, the dude can sling it. And if that's who Joe Milton is in 2023, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC. We'll see what he is in the country, but he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC. You can take that to the bank. Now, behind him, like I said, the number 1 player in the 2023 class, according to Charles Power here at On3, Director of Scouting and Rankings. I'll just say this right now, Charles Power's the best in the business. If Charles Power says someone's number 1 in the country, they're number 1 in the country. And the way that we do things here at On3, we give out 5 stars, 32 of them, in projection to the NFL draft. So we're saying, okay, these are our 32 5 stars. That projects to 32 first-round NFL draft picks. So what we're telling you is Nico Iamaleava is a first-round draft pick kind of player when it's all said and done. So you got Joe Milton, who could be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC based on what we saw and the tools he has. You know my comp for him, it's Uncle Rico. Throw the ball a quarter mile over that there mountains, and you got a first-round draft pick, potentially, and Nico Iamaleava. Y'all, that's just spoiled in the quarterback room at Tennessee. I will admit some of this is projection. Some of this is a small sample size on Joe Milton. Some of this is the wide-open offense that Josh Heupel equips these guys to play in. But listen, man, you got to trust your eyes a little bit here. To have your second-string quarterback be projected to be a first-round pick, I'm just saying, that means something, okay? So that, for me, is where I put Tennessee in relation to the SEC quarterback room. I'm not telling you Joe Milton's the number 1 quarterback in the SEC. He might end up being. But when it comes to ranking these rooms, the combo with Milton and Iamaleava, it's just filthy, man. It's just filthy. So we got Tennessee at 1, LSU at 2, Georgia at 3, Ole Miss at 4, Arkansas at 5. Notice there is one team I did not rank here, the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm not dunking on Bama. I've gone on record saying I think Bama's still Bama. I think Bama's still going to be a problem for the SEC. I think there's still going to be a team that competes for the college football playoff. But as it pertains rather to the quarterback room, you got Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, Eli Holstein. Like I said, small sample size on Joe Milton, small sample size on Jalen Milroe. Vastly different results. Jalen Milroe stepped in against A&M. They won the ball game, but he left a lot to be desired. Threw for like 111 yards. Did a great job running the football at times this season, but Jalen Milroe, for me, I don't have enough on tape from him to put Alabama somewhere in the top 5. Ty Simpson, I have nothing on tape from him. Eli Holstein, I have nothing on tape from him. It's all projection. You're saying, well, JD, you put Georgia at 3. What are you talking about? You put Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe's actually done something on a football field. Those guys at Georgia haven't. I hear you. But for Jalen Milroe, it's a negative sample size based on where I'm standing. All right, so for that reason, I don't feel comfortable putting Bama as a top 5 quarterback room in the SEC today. Again, this is just pre-spring. This could all change by the time we hit game 1. But for me, that's my top 5. For what it's worth, Bama's probably somewhere around that 6 or 7 range. Devin Leary at Kentucky also probably deserves to be mentioned in this conversation. But that's the top 5 for today. Could change tomorrow. That's how I see the quarterback room shaking out in the Southeastern Conference. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.